Okay, well, welcome to today's reorganizational meeting. I'd like to get the meeting started today with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if we could rise, please. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As is our tradition here at Western Irondequoit, I want to read our land acknowledgement to begin the meeting here as a tribute to the land that we're on. So our land acknowledgement at Western Irondequoit is the Western Irondequoit Central School District acknowledges the indigenous people of this region and that this school district building sits on the homelands of the Onondaga of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. It is on these lands that we teach, learn, and live. So with that, brings us to the third bullet on our agenda, which is to appoint a temporary chairperson.
Can I please have a motion to appoint Dr. Johnson as the temporary chairperson?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, Ms. Lustig. Number 4 is the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Or first of all, I should ask, are there any changes to the agenda? None being had, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Can we vote on the agenda? Call for a vote on the agenda. Thank
All
you.
those in favor?
All those in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Usually I check out at that point. Thank you, appreciate that. So now we have the oath of office for the superintendent of schools.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the Office of Superintendent of Schools
the duties of the office of superintendent of schools
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my ability. Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Ms. Lustig. Oath of office for new board members. So we do have one new board member. Welcome.
And Mr. Vail.
Oh, yes, well, a returning veteran
go
board
first?
member. Thank you so much, Ms. Lustig. So we'd like to, board of all.
So just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of board member
the duties of office of board member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Thank you.
I just need you to sign and put your address there. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of board member
the duties of the office of board member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Board, and congratulations, Mr. Bay. Welcome back. So that brings us to the election of President of the Board of Education for the 2023-24 school year. I'd like to ask for any nominations for the office of President.
I would like to nominate Matt Metro.
Thank you. Any other nominations?
first.
Second the first one?
I'll
Okay.
second it.
You'll second the first one. I feel like an auctioneer. Any other nominations? Okay, so we'll close the nominations. Ready with that?
We gotta
Is there a
do-
We have
motion?
to motion to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Motion to elect Mr. Metris as president.
So move.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Congratulations, Mr. Metris.
Thank you. Play musical chair now.
Yep.
Thank you.
James, thank you for the use of your seat.
Anytime.
Warm that up.
Oh, fancy. Oh, yeah, I got it.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the
of
Constitution
the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of School Board President
the duties of the office of School Board President
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability. Thank you. Next, we have election of the vice president of the school board. May I have any nominations for vice president?
I nominate Matt.
Thank you, Ms. Schaus. May I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Moore. Are there any other nominations for the office of vice president? All right, seeing none, I will ask for a motion to elect Mr. Sullivan as vice president. Thank you, Ms.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bain. All those in favor? Did you vote? I think you can vote. That's 6-0, Ms. Lustig. And just for the record, Ms. Vargas Cronin was unable to join us this evening. Welcome back, sir. Your turn to move.
Thank you for your seat.
Raise your right hand. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of School Board Vice President
the duties of the office of School Board Vice President
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
And so next is the Uno reverse card, where I give Miss Lustig. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of School District Clerk
the duties of the office of School District Clerk
of the West Irondequoit Board of Education
of the West Irondequoit Board of Education
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my ability.
Congratulations. You can have that. There's Mr. Sullivan.
Thanks, sir.
And next on the agenda is the filings of the oath of office of President, Vice President, newly elected board members, clerk, treasurer, and internal claims auditor. Mrs. Lustig, will these be filed as appropriate?
Yes, they will.
Excellent. Next is authorizations/appointments/designations/readoptions for the 2023-24 school year. May I have the recommended resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the consensus agenda for the authorizations, designations, and readoptions for the 2023-24 school year dated July 11th, 2023 be approved as presented.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. May I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any questions or comments on these? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? That is 6-0, Ms. Liston. Next is the approval of the minutes from our June 1st and June 15th meetings. May I have the recommended resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the minutes of the June 1st, 2023 study session and the June 15th, 2023 business meeting be accepted as presented.
May I have a motion? Thank you, Mr. Connor. May I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Moore. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? That is 6-0, Mrs. Liston. Next is public comment. We don't have anyone signed in for public comment tonight, but we always welcome public comment at all of our board meetings. We're here the first and third Thursday typically of the month, so come on down. Next is report of the superintendent, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Metris. Just a few things to point out today. I want to follow up. We had a great presentation by the Green Team from the high school near the end of the year. And to follow up on that, Mr. Brennan and I scheduled a meeting. Just by happenstance, this company reached out to us within the last month about solar energy. So we met with them this week. I just have a packet of information about what something would look like here in Western Irondequoit. I can make that available. They're going to send us some information as well, but that's a conversation we extend if the board is interested in that in the district. I also want to point out, thanks to Ms. Lustig, we were able to send our 12-month employees and save the date for a summer picnic. If you remember, in the last couple of years, we've done just a kind of a casual get-together with those folks. They don't very often have a chance to see one another, to just talk casually. They seem to really appreciate that time together, so we've structured something again this year. I want to make sure that you're aware of that. It's on the 25th. We say 11:30 or 12? 11:30. So 11:30, we're going to utilize the concession stand over there near the turf field. It's bring your own chair. So if you want to bring your own chair, we'd love to have you folks if you're able to make it and be a part of that. Starting tomorrow and Thursday, we have a leadership retreat. So this is something that's grown over the last few years. Historically, we've had kind of an instructional workshop annually where we introduce the instructional blueprint. We talk about school-based plans. Now we've added conversations around the management plan. But this is separate. This is something to really sharpen the saws of our leadership. So for this year, we're going to the Warner School. And in the morning, they're going to kick off a little mini-series with the leadership team on strength-based leadership. This was something really, 4 years ago, the leadership team had asked for just more for their development. More opportunities, more offerings, and we've kind of, again, been growing that over the last couple of years. So we're excited to spend that time together in the afternoon, thanks to Ms. Megan, her leadership, and leadership of our student services. We've struck up a partnership with URMC and their behavioral health division, and they've already started, tail end of last year, supporting our student services, mental health teams as like with some triage, really consultant support. They've been helping us to plan for the implementation of our 811 programs at the K-6 level. So in the afternoon, we're going to be spending time with them, really talking about just functional assessments, and they're just going to give us some more professional learning around their opportunities and some of the associated conversations. The second day, we're coming back here, and all of our leadership team will participate in CPR and AED. Of course, with some of the recent things that have happened, that's something that folks are excited to have a refresher in. And in the afternoon, we're going to spend more time with URMC, so we're excited about that. And then the last thing I would just mention is that summer school, we're hosting this year at Dake for the east side of Monroe County, one of the locations. Everything has kicked off successfully, so I just want to thank all the folks that were involved in making that space available and helping to coordinate that. And then our programs are starting to kick off this week as well, so if the board has any questions on that, please reach out. And then you may have seen that we've started some concrete work over at IHS, and that's part of our municipal agreement with, well, not that specifically, but we also have some other work going on that is part of our municipal agreement with the town. So if you'd like more information on that, you'll see some of those things happening across the district. So, any questions?
Okay, thank you, sir, for that update. I'd like to take a moment to invite our assistant superintendents to join us now that we're done borrowing your seats.
One final thing I almost neglected to do, thanks to the support of Ms. Lustig, we have a nice welcome swag bag. Mr. Bay, I know you're a returning veteran, my friend, so you have a lot of this swag. But for our newcomer, congratulations and welcome to the team. Yep.
Thank you, John.
All right, next is report of the leadership staff business, and number one is audit committee. Dr. Johnson.
Yes, Mr. Brennan, do we have any updates?
Just that our annual audit will be occurring later this month with the bond.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Next is report of leadership staff instruction. Dr. Johnson.
Ms. Miga, do we have any updates?
Nothing past, just as you shared, Dr. Johnson, we're just getting some of our summer programming up and running. This week, some of our extended school year programs for our students with disabilities has kicked off across K through 12. We're also doing another round, continuing from the school year of K-12 intensive tutoring. So that tutoring has started for some of our students as well, and that is with the use of some of our COVID relief stimulus funds. So we've been able to continue that this summer, and over the next couple of weeks, some of our K-6 summer labs and intervention programs at the 7-12 level will kick off as well. So thanks to everybody and their hard work for pulling this together. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Lee? Excellent. Moving on to report of leadership staff personnel. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kramer?
Thank you. Tonight for your approval, we have the resignation of 2 school counselors, 2 teaching assistants, a special education teacher, and a principal, as well as a resignation of a school aide accompanist. We have change in employment status of secretary to an assistant principal of a 12-month position to the 10-month assistant principal IHS position, and a change of employment of a teaching assistant at Rogers to benefits clerk at district office. We have the appointment of an elementary teacher, a long-term substitute 2 for the tutoring center teacher. We have successful completion of approved in-service and professional development per the WITA agreement of 4 teaching assistants for professional learning and 6 teachers. We have the recommendation for our K-6 special education contact teacher, our 7-12 counseling contact teacher, and recommendation for 2 of our team members for permanent civil service employment of a laborer and a custodian.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the personnel agenda? All right, seeing none, we need a recommended resolution. Thank you, Mrs. Lustig. May I have the recommended resolution?
Be it resolved that the personnel agenda dated July 11th, 2023, as recommended by the superintendent of schools, be approved as presented.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Sol.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Now, are there any questions on the personnel agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is 6-0, Ms. Lustig. Next is fall coaching stipends, and this one does not have a resolution. Dr. Johnson.
Yes. Ms. Kramer, would you like to introduce this, please?
Yes, so thank you. This evening, for a first read for our fall coaches, we have a list of coaches approved with certification, as well as our volunteer coaches and their stipends for the WITA contract for the fall of 2023.
Any questions on that? Okay, we anticipate approval of this at the August 10th meeting. So if anything comes up, please reach out to Dr. Johnson. Next is new business, H1, board members serving as liaisons to various committees and buildings. May I have the recommended resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the 2023-24 list of Board of Education liaison assignments be approved as presented.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Day. May I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Bornball. I will open it up to the board for discussion. I do want to say thank you to Mr. Sullivan for doing the heavy lift on reaching out to everyone and putting this draft list together. Any other discussion on that? Okay. Seeing none, if we can go ahead and vote on that, all those in favor? That is 6-0, Ms. Lustig. Just to record into the record, the assignments are for Monroe County School Boards, Mr. Sullivan and myself for Legislative, for Labor Relations Committee, Mr. Vey and myself, for Information Exchange, Ms. Vargas Cronin, Mr. Sullivan, and myself. For school community groups, Helmer Nature Center is Mr. Connor and Mr. Vey. PTSA is Mrs. Borneball and Ms. Schaus. West Irondequoit Foundation is Mr. Connor and Mr. Sullivan. Teacher Learning Center is Ms. Schaus and Mr. Sullivan. Facilities Planning Committee is Ms. Vargas Cronin and myself. Health and Safety is Mrs. Borneball and Ms. Vargas Cronin. And then the school assignments are Irondequoit High School, Mr. Vey, Dake, Ms. Schaus, Rogers, Mr. Sullivan, Iroquois, Mrs. Borneball, Briarwood/Colebrook, Ms. Vargas Cronin, Brookview Seneca, Mr. Connor, Listwood, South Lawn, Mr. Mentris. Next is the athletics shed bid. May I have the recommended resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the West Irondequoit Central School District awards the athletics storage shed bid to Lakeshore Metal at a cost of $62,975.
May I have a motion, please? Thank you, Mrs. Bornball. May I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Dr. Johnson?
Yes, this was something that we incorporated into this year's approved budget. I want to turn over to Mr. Reddick because he's led the bid process for this.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Johnson. So kind of as the memo states, this actually really was our second bidding go-around. The first one, the bids were far in excess of what we had budgeted for the shed itself. So we worked with our architects and campus construction to kind of tease out what are some changes. We moved to a pole barn style building and reached out to a variety of vendors who they could assist us with, first just to see interest in it, get a sense on costs, and then we did follow through the bid. That was opened up on Friday, and we did, although several did indicate interest, collect information on the plans and specifications, we only had one bidder, but that did meet our specifications, and so that is Lakeshore Metal, and that's the recommendation going forward. The idea here is, if you remember back to the previous project, there was a concept of storage facilities off the track to protect our assets as well as some of our golf carts. The idea this will help us expand our storage, but at the same time eliminate a lot of the smaller sheds that we have around that are in disrepair. So that's the basis of why it was in the budget and our bidding process.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Any questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? 6-0. Next is approval of transportation contracts. May I have the recommended resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the following transportation contracts for the 2023-24 school year be approved as presented.
And the detail of those contracts is in board docs. May I have a motion, please? Oh, yeah. I'll give it to Ms. Schaus, and Mrs. Borneball can have the second. Dr. Johnson?
I want to turn over to Mr. Brennan, he led this as well.
Yes, so this is as we know, because of the overall driver shortage, we now enlist a variety of companies to help us with our transportation needs. Specifically First Student, East Irondequoit Central School District, as well as RMS Transportation, otherwise known as Transco. in the case of Transpo, we bid out this contract last summer, and they have agreed to maintain those rates as is, so no increase for the 23-24 school year. And if you're, in prior years, when you extend a contract for a year, you can do so as long as they stay within the CPI rate, which obviously they have at 0%. East Irondequoit, we have a long-standing partnership with them. They, as being another school district, they aren't necessarily required to undergo any bidding requirements. What they do for us though is, as opposed to charging us by the bus, they charge us by the student. So they look at their available runs and are able to put us into the existing runs. The downside is, of course, if they are going to a particular school that we need to go to, they won't be able to provide the transportation. It's worked out really well for us over the last approximately 10 years. But we are absorbing some of their costs, about 13% increase from last year, again, due to driver shortage and their efforts to retain and recruit new drivers for their runs. Final group is First Student. They are the largest of our providers, and we were notified in April that they would not be able to extend the agreement at the CPI increase. Again, their overall costs are increasing quite a bit. We did an RFP for new service providers. It wasn't unexpected that we only had one respondent. Again, the other providers in the area just don't have the capacity to be able to provide the number of buses that we need. First Student does. This is a 25% increase, which is significant. Overall, it puts a lot of stress on the transportation budget. We are still within budget, but it definitely pushed our contingencies. So just making sure the board's aware of that, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. The only other partner out there is Monroe One BOCES, and these are for kids that are at these programs, and so any transportation needs that they have while they're out there, Monroe One BOCES provides those, and they essentially charge us for those transportation services. Those are for the summer program, that's the ESY, as well as the school year students and disabilities programs.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Any questions or comments on that? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? That is 6-0, Ms. Lustig. Next is approval of the IESA contract. May I have the recommended resolution, please?
Be it resolved that based on the recommendation of the superintendent and negotiation team, and after due consideration and review, the West Irondequoit Board of Education adopts the collective bargaining agreement between the district and the West Irondequoit Educational Secretaries Association for a term beginning July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2027, and directs that the superintendent execute the agreement and take such other steps as are necessary to implement it.
May I have a motion? Thank you, Ms. Rubel. May I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Dr. Johnson.
I just want to start out by thanking our negotiations team, which is chaired by Ms. Kramer and chaired by Mr. Brennan. And just want to thank the leadership of the IESA for their partnership and approach to the process. It was a very successful, obviously, process here. And I want to turn it over to Ms. Kramer. Anything that you would like to add specifically?
So again, yeah, thank you to our IESA leadership for a comprehensive but collegial process. And we are pleased with the recommendation that we were able to settle and work through a contract within the financial parameters that you provided to us. So thank you for your work to guide us on that as well.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is 6-0, Ms. Lustig. Next is bond resolution. May I have the recommended action, please?
The full resolution can be found in board docs.
Are you sure?
Yes.
May I have a motion?
So,
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Dr. Johnson.
Yeah, so if you take a look at this, it's very extensive, but it all has to do with our capital project. So I just, again, want to thank Mr. Brennan, our Facilities Planning Committee, all of the board support, community for their support in voting on this. But Mr. Brennan, anything specifically you want to point out within that?
Just that, this is for obviously the RISE project. We are using, it says within it, we're using $8 million of our capital reserve. The remaining amount, we will be engaging in borrowing. However, it's just important to note that any of the borrowing costs are going to be offset for anticipated state aid, and that's why we're able to achieve a project like this that doesn't have an impact on the tax levy. So this provides authorization for the district to go ahead and borrow those monies when that time comes. Obviously, we'll start with the $8 million for cash, but then as we get further into the project, we'll engage in the borrowing.
Thank you, Mr. Bright. Any questions or comments? Seeing all those in favor? That is 6-0, Ms. Lustig. Next is the RFP for award for internal auditor. May I have the recommended resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the West Irondequoit Central School District approves the engagement with EFP Rotenberg to conduct the 2023-24 risk assessment and internal audit for a price not to exceed $15,000.
May I have a motion, please? Thank you, Mrs. Bornwell. May I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Dr. Johnson.
Mr. Brennan, anything you want to add to this?
This RFP was done in partnership with other Monroe County schools. We work on a similar cycle where we go out with an RFP or a bid every 5 years for internal auditing services. We had 3 respondents. There's a 4th for other districts. It's a Bonneville group, but you can't have the same auditor for both internal and external, so they did not bid on ours. And you can see that our current auditor came in as the lowest proposal. And so the recommendation is to remain with the UFPR group for the period of the next 5 years.
Thank you, sir. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is 6-0, Ms. Lustig. Next is the consent agenda. May I have the recommended resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the West Irondequoit Central School District approves the consent agenda, which includes I-2 through I-7.
May I have a motion, please? Thank you, Mrs. Bornwell. May I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Connor. Tonight's consent agenda includes the recommendations of the Committee on Special Education, the appointment of the 2023-24 Committee on Special Education and Preschool Committee on Special Education, the 2023-24 Standard Workday Resolution by position, the 23-24 Cooperative Bid Resolution, the approval of the Professional Learning Plan, and the approval of the revised 23-24 Board of Education meeting schedule. Are there any items of the consent agenda on which a board member would like to have a separate discussion on? Are there any items on the consent agenda on which a board member would like to have removed to vote on separately? Since this is our reorg meeting for the year, I'll just read our consent agenda information. To make more efficient use of meeting time, the Board of Education authorizes the use of a consent agenda as part of the meeting agenda. A consent agenda allows for one motion to approve multiple items, and items are identified as such on the agenda. The president of the board will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda and will ask if board members wish to have a discussion and or clarification on specific items contained within the consent agenda. Following the discussion, the board will then vote on the consent agenda motion. In addition, a board member may request to have an item removed from the consent agenda in order to vote on the motion separately. Having said all that, are there any remaining discussion items on the consent agenda? Mr. Bay.
I think it's important that, I know we changed the Board of Education calendar, that we use that last meeting in June instead of saying as if necessary, to plan on it and then cancel it if we don't need it. I know this year we could have really used that one,
Okay.
to really just plan on having that one, and then if we don't need it, cancel it, more than if necessary.
Sure.
Just a suggestion. I know this year we ran into that.
Yep.
We met on, we had to find another night.
Yep, no, that's good feedback. Anything else on the consent agenda? All those in favor? That is 6-0, Mrs. Lustig. That brings us to future meetings. Will we have future meetings?
Yes, we have the Board of Education workshop on Thursday, August 10th from 9 AM to 5:30 here at district office, followed by a business meeting at 5:30, also at district office.
Thank you very much. Next is executive session. Is there a reason to go into executive session?
There is not.
Okay, well then that brings us to adjournment. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for this next year of Board of Education. And may I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mr. Day. May I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Shells. All those in favor? That is 6-0. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.